Hi folks, welcome to our series on selection. And what I wanted to talk about here is the last three steps in the selection process. We talked about earlier in class the first three steps, which was the pre-screening, the testing, selection testing, and then selection interviewing. I want to talk now about the fourth step, which really looks more at investigating the background and checking references. It's very important to investigate or to verify the information that the applicants provided, and also to ask questions to get an idea as to whether or not this person's going to be the best fit for that position. They do talk about some of the common lies or mistruths that people make on resumes, and some of them are very popular. For example, the dates of employment. So, for example, if somebody lost their job and they were unemployed for 6 months, they might want to just kind of hide that fact. So they might not, truthfully state or include on the resume that they were not employed. They might try and hide it by indicating from the dates of employment or leading the potential employer to think that they were working all that time. Sometimes people don't tell us, or they inflate their qualifications. They might say they have a master's degree or are a registered nurse, and they're not. Again, similarly, they might say they have a license to practice in a particular area, and maybe they don't. They might not tell you the truth about their salary level. They might tell you their salary is higher than it actually is. Or maybe if they know they've been overpaid, they might tell you that their current salary is actually lower than it is, because don't forget, people want to make sure that they're screened in to the selection process. They don't want to be screened out, so they might say their salary is actually lower because they say, oh, if they think I'm making too much money, they might not hire me, right? So sometimes people don't tell the truth in their resume. Getting written permission from the applicant to check your references is very, very important, because you should only be checking references from based on what the applicant gives you. If the applicant hasn't provided references from a particular employer and you really want to get them, then make sure you tell the applicant as the prospective employer that you want that, so that the applicant will make sure they can get somebody. Most of the time I find telephone checks are used because they are quicker, and they also provide you with an opportunity to probe for more information while you've got somebody on the phone. So I wouldn't really mail out a reference check form. I wouldn't email it to somebody. I would try and get somebody on the phone, because it's usually quicker and you can get a lot more meaningful information, because you can ask more follow-up questions while you've got the person on the line. Who's the best source for a reference? That's really a good question, because a lot of times, it can depend. But usually the best source is a previous employer, somebody who's actually supervised your work, all right? So they know a little bit more about how you've worked. Sometimes it could be a peer, but most of the time we find that they want to talk to somebody who's actually supervised your work. The right questions do have to be asked in order to get an accurate picture of the person that you're hiring. So I've got a sample form here. You can actually access it through your course. What I'm going to do is I'm going to try and get to it by getting out of the slideshow, if I can. I did. Okay, and I actually opened it up. So you can see here, this is the HR department at the University of California, Berkeley, and they actually have a format or a guide for their employees if their employees are doing their own reference checks. So say a supervisor has decided that he or she wants to do the reference check. They don't want the HR department to do it. Maybe this form can be used to conduct it. So they tell their people to introduce themselves, state the purpose of the call, to confirm the relationship between the person giving the reference and the applicant. So if you want it to be a supervisor, make sure you've got that. Confirm some basic dates of employment, and they've even given them some sample questions here that can be asked. So what I'm going to do in the next video is I'm going to go through a few of these questions with you, because you can probably anticipate that these questions might be asked of references that you might provide to an employer when you go out looking for work. So they deserve a little bit of a closer look. So we'll get back to these questions momentarily in the next video.